Hello and welcome to today's webinar on cyber resilience powered global capability centers, unlocking the next. I am Kanchi Shah, General Manager for Content Strategy at Strategic, and it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you on behalf of Zscaler and Strategic. Ladies and gentlemen, the true value that GCCs bring to their parent organizations is far beyond revenues. We're being ushered into this era of GCC 3.0, where the erstwhile captive GCCs in India are evolving from being service providers to advisors, innovation centers, and transformation centers, and also centers of excellence. This by tapping into a diversified talent pool in India and working on frontier technologies. GCCs also offer a unique value proposition to India, right from developing talent and an ecosystem of innovation to creating social impact and focusing on sustainability. The cybersecurity outlook for GCCs is, of course, evolving. What's next? From a cybersecurity standpoint, GCCs will continue to add enhanced value, and we see their roles expanding into several areas. And through this webinar is going to focus on exactly that. We're going to uncover the potential that these areas hold and the pain points that need to be addressed. And this, of course, to see how cyber resilience can power global capability centers to move from their now into their next, to empower every organization along the way on this journey for a cyber powered future. Please join me as I welcome our speakers to take us through this interesting discussion. I'd like to welcome Mr. Rishi Rajpal. In conversation with him, we have Mr. Sudeep Banerjee, Field CTO, APJ for Zscaler. And they are in a conversation moderated by Mr. Amit Dhawan, CISO and DPO Quantify. Over to you, Amit.
Hi, good day, everybody. We are here to talk about the business resiliency and cyber resiliency uh, from the global competency centers perspective in India. I have with me Rishi and Sudip. Uh, I'll request both of you to give a little brief introduction about yourself. I myself, I'm CISO and DPO of Quantify, and happy to be here to talk about the new normal and the way things are progressing on this amazing capability field that we have in India.
Thanks, Amit. Myself, Rishi, and I'm Vice President Global Security at Concentrix. My responsibilities includes GRCC functions and SOC. Uh, Happy to be here and participate in this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishi. Thanks, Amit. I'll take it from here. My name is Sudeep Banerjee. I am a field CTO at Zscaler. Was earlier a CIO at a financial services conglomerate business in India, and responsible for looking at a cloud city, cloud cybersecurity overall, its adoption, challenges, risks, etc. So very happy to be in the middle of experts and looking forward to engaging discussion.
Great, thank you, Rishi. Thank you, Sudip. So, if you go by some recent reports, primarily from Deloitte, if you go through it, talking about the global capability or global competency centers in India, it says that 45% of the world's GCCs are present in India. And, this includes about 1,300 global organizations employing more than almost 2 million direct jobs into this field. This whole thing generates about 40 odd billion US dollars in annual revenue for Indian companies, which accounts for about 7 to 8% of our GDP. So it's a very crucial and a critical field in India, which has grown significantly in the last 3-4 years. And the technology growth, when we look at it, we have the CEO of AWS saying that there is going to be about 40 to 50% growth in cloud, which we're looking at about couple of $1 trillion in the next few years. So technology is going to play an important role. We in India, from a services standpoint, have been playing a very crucial role in the world and continue to do so. But there are, when we look at future or when we look at the past, why India has become such a big station for all these activities. It is primarily because of easy availability of talent, and obviously low cost. Indians traditionally have been very, very good in customer management, and that has really helped the world. We started off with BPOs, KPOs, and now into IT services. Uh, the education background that we have in India has really created a great amount of technology leadership. And with the experience of the last 20 years that we have in this, we see a lot of leaders in the world coming in from India and a lot of companies in India coming up at a very, very large scale in the world and making their presence felt. Uh, we have learned over so many years, uh, and are able to give great amount of operational excellence and sustainability in our business. We've seen a lot of hiccups, but we have sustained and we have delivered. The last piece that happened in 2020 was the pandemic, and I think Indian companies stood tall in that area and were able to deliver what the world wanted. The pandemic part, I was talking to some auditors in the morning as well, was a very, very low risk item in everybody's field. But that happened, that changed the way we work. And when we look at the future, we have a huge amount of changes coming in. And the biggest is not purely cyber resilience, but business resilience, hybrid working environment, people working from different places, the technology overlap available across the country and the globe. So it's a new normal, we can say. And there are a lot of changes that are happening. So having said that, I'll start conversation with Rishi. When we look at you know the organizations, when we talk about global delivery centers, we have two ways when the larger companies abroad are working in India. One is they outsource the work to the TCS, to Wipro, to Birlasoft, and a lot of other companies like this, and then they have their own centers available. you know how does this the digital transformation technology and the work distribution in all these things, how do you see cyber security coming up in India, especially for large scale projects?
So, Amit, if I look at the overall development part of it, some of the big organizations today have their development centers in India. And predominantly, I would like to disagree on the cost part because the days of labor arbitrage or cost arbitrage is gone, right? It is because we are able to add value in the overall ecosystem. So, and if you look at the population breakup, I was just looking at a couple of sources. 52% of our population is less than 30 years, which means that we've been able to get the fresh thinking on the table. Now, obviously, governance can be done by people like you and me who are aged, but uh, they'll make sure that they are on the right track and the deliverables are met. But I think from a fresh thinking perspective, people who are learning key technologies, new technologies, how the technology landscape is changing so fast. Unless and until this new companies, new age companies bring in that on the table, it's not possible. And I think that is what India has been able to put on the table. And I think we are just right on top with some of the leading countries from a talent perspective to get this fresh perspective across and produce some quality outputs. And I can tell you that some of the large OEMs have huge dependency on India on some of their niche products which are only being developed in India. So I mean, we've been able to add a lot of value.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. So Sudeep, before I come there, I'll just you know put something else here. So uh, interesting part that cost is lesser of a variable here, and more importantly, we have grown in technology, in leadership, and understanding of the direction that the world is moving. Uh, with new technologies coming in like IoT, cloud, app modernization, digital transformation drivers, identification, quantification of lot of things. Uh, you know, how do you think our folks, Rishi, and to you, how do you think our folks are growing in this direction? You say that yes, we have capability increasing, but when we if you want to quantify that value that we are adding to the growth, just some thoughts on this, not a direct question, but just some thoughts on the new age technology, our value add, and the capability that the country has. Some thoughts on this.
I mean, if I talk about large OEMs and large cybersecurity OEMs, they have like big shops of development in India, whether it's Bangalore, Gurgaon, Chennai, wherever, right? And I think when I was talking to a few of them in last couple of months, they pointed out, right, they might have 50 to 60% dependency in India, which is huge, right? And for some of the products, they are only being developed in India, right? They might have some resiliency in terms of cities and all, but some of the products they are hugely dependent. And if I talk about latest technologies, niche products, our education system has evolved. The kids have become really smart. They know as they if they're doing beta computer science, as they land up in third and fourth semester, they're already searching on what is emerging. Gone are the days when we were doing vanilla btechs, and when people used to hit the field, they saw a very different environment what they saw in colleges. Right now, the students want to learn more while they are graduating so that they are market ready as soon as the education is done. I think that's one big driver. While there'll still be shortage of good resources all the time, but I think the thought process where students have started thinking afresh, students have started thinking where they want to land up. They're very clear in their thought process. I want to be a coder. I want to be a full stack developer. I want to be in cyber. I want to do this. I want to do that. That is really helping because once you have the focus right, unlike when we passed out and we never knew what we will do, they're very clear and they are kind of catching up while they are studying their academics.
I completely agree with you on this part. Don't agree with you when you said that we have grown old. Okay. but taking all these things and coming to you, so that we're talking about new technologies coming in, the cloud, the IoT, the cyber security, and the resilience becoming an important part. uh, India started has Indian folks have started in the technology leadership domain and are becoming, Indian companies and Indians are being noted and valued across the world. Uh, what does Zscaler bring to the table for all these things?
I mean, Zscaler is a Silicon Valley product company, but if you look at the parentage, where it started from, right? It has got an extremely strong Indian parentage, right? The top team, I would say, the bulk of them, be it our CEO, founder, be it our head of strategy, the chief architect. I mean, all of these roles were led by kind of Indians. Not only Zscaler, you look at any cybersecurity or networking or other top companies from the valley in the US, you see that they have again a very very strong Indian connection, right? So there's not nothing different from us. We have strong roots in India. Most of the development, cloud operations, support, etc. Even a large part of the go-to-market function is actually from India. And I mean, talking about India as a whole, but today we're talking GCC, but just stepping a little back, look at how the Indian government has spearheaded digital technology. I mean, gone are the days when we visit bank branches. We can go to the market even without a wallet today, right? Only the mobile phone is enough for us to, kind of shop, do merchant payments, peer-to-peer payments, and whatnot. Whereas even developed countries, so to say, people are still writing checks to each other, right? So that's a huge, huge change, and I think the Indian, kind of corporate side, they've also taken up the mantle, and I see this amazing amount of, speed, agility, growth, having a growth mindset. The other good benefit about India is that since our kind of IT dependency for enterprises is not more than, let's say, 30, 40, 50 years, we are not saddled with extremely legacy technology like mainframes and all, right? So that is also helping us to transition to be more cloud ready, right? Whereas I see a lot of kind of global banks they're still struggling because their core systems, their credit card applications, etc., they're all still running on IBM on COBOL software. So that's like difficult. Over and over, I see extreme positivity, but again, every coin has got two sides, right? Unless you have the coin from Cholet, which had the same thing on both sides. But so the flip side of digital and flip side of modernization is also the risk, which we see in terms of these cybersecurity incidents, uh, things like supply chain attacks. The sheer volume, variety, veracity of these attacks is keeping everybody of us in IT, on our toes, right? So that's the kind of flip side, and that's where Zscaler is trying to position a zero trust platform, which I'm sure we'll talk subsequently. But that's overall view of how I see India and the progress made so far.
Good insights. But going a little deeper into what you mentioned, and not necessarily going into zero trust, but at a larger level, when we talk about the new technologies, cloud, IoT, application modernization, edge computing, and distributed working courtesy COVID, what is the value that Zscaler brings in, and how does it help the organizations improve their resiliency?
Yeah, in a nutshell, I think we are providing that amount of freedom and agility to enterprises to be a 24 by 7, location free, kind of an enterprise where people can work from anywhere, be it employees of the company, be it business partners, right? They can today work from anywhere. Um, Everybody needs connectivity towards the internet today, because gone are the days when companies could run siloed operations, siloed IT, right? It's an age of correlation. It's, let's say, in banking, because that's the industry I know best from my previous experience. It's all about open banking, API banking, banking as a service, which means that you are talking as a bank, your IT, your applications, your data today is traversing borders, right? You're talking to a variety of other ecosystems, be it fintechs, be it maybe even the regulators. They're becoming tech savvy as well. So in this kind of a milieu, Zscaler is able to give you that security, because you know what, application modernization cannot happen unless you have a strong foundation of a network and security which can take your users to those applications. Earlier days, we have seen companies, let's say prior to COVID, everything was in their data center, all their crown jewel applications, data, all of that, right? And companies would hairpin traffic from all of their operating locations, be it bank branches, regional hubs, so on and so forth, back into the data center, because the security was there. And that was actually putting a constraint, because more and more we do business on the cloud, more and more the traffic is flowing over the internet, right? And so you cannot use proprietary WAN and other MPLS kind of technology to backhaul everything just because you have set up a strong perimeter in a data center. So that model is becoming archaic, and in Zscaler we are trying to address that particular kind of open space where users could be anywhere, location doesn't matter. Your applications could be anywhere. They could be in a data center, or you could have migrated them maybe onto PaaS services or SaaS services, right? We come in the middle and we provide security at a line rate, without users experiencing any more latency. Because security earlier used to be kind of a contra with user experience. I mean, the more security you throw in the path of transactions, you bog down things, you create bottlenecks. So we are trying to eliminate that bottleneck, give speed, performance, agility, and top-notch security. That's where we come from.
Oh, interesting insights, Udip. And more importantly, when we talk about cloud and apps, so we are. I've been privy to some applications very recently, wherein the traditional VAPT model was just not working. Uh, It did not have a web server. It did not have a front end. Uh, that application was purely working on APIs and cloud native services. You know, uh, a very different way of making an application. Uh, that application is not used for manufacturing, but it is used for forecasting some things. But couple of applications that we've been building in Quantify do not have a traditional architecture. So the world is changing. The cloud is changing the way we actually operate, the way we write our code. the way we actually test from a security standpoint. The traditional VAPT models, the traditional CI/CD pipelines, we really don't know. They just might not be enough to set up in the present environment, and therefore an umbrella like service to connect and protect an organization definitely helps. Moving forward, we've spoken about security. We talk about the new technologies coming in. Another very important element that I think we are contributing to the world is automation and standardization. Though a lot needs to be done, the RFCs that come up, uh, still are not that great, and a lot of band-aid work still happens over the years to plug those things. Rishi, what are your views about standardization and automation in our security reviews, assessments, compliance initiatives, and moving from following the world to leading these areas in the world?
Yeah, and I think anything which has to be achieved in scale, Amit, you would agree that that needs automation. Gone are the days when traditionally we were using a waterfall model, and at the end security guy will be a showstopper and say this cannot go in production because this has 10 bugs, right? Everything needs to be automated. Developers need to get real-time feedback if they're not coding it correct, and as soon as they submit their code, they should be sent back if they have security issues, not at the time. Predominantly sticking to development, right? So we had a DevSecOps, it was DevOps, then it became DevSecOps. I strongly feel that it is SecDevSecOps because security needs to shift left. Everybody is talking about shifting left. From a cybersecurity, also, if you look at our operations or your operations or everybody's operations, if your MTTR, mean time to remediate, mean time to detect, is not through automation, you will never be able to do catch up game with the adversaries because the time to penetrate is becoming shorter and shorter. And if your time to detect is higher than the time to penetrate, how will you cope up? So, I mean, that'll be my take. So, automation is the key, orchestration is the key, and that needs to, if any organization does not have, that's a mandatory thing. They should be start thinking about it and start investing in it.
Oh, great insight, Rishi. I'll add to this. With privacy becoming very, very prevalent and being bound very closely with security, the privacy by design and development with design security, uh, these things, when combined together, actually require a lot of effort of shifting left with automation. Even if you want to do a lot of corrections in between, it requires a lot of automation. uh, I think this is the way that the world is moving. So they, any views on this from Zscaler perspective that can help the community in growing in this direction?
So certainly, yes. Zscaler is about a 13, 14-year-old company. And for the initial about 10, 11 years, we were focused upon improving security on the north-south. So users going towards internet or applications, right? But then we figured out, the same relevance of security is required even for, let's say, two workloads talking to each other. They could be, on the same, let's say, VPC or VNet on the public cloud. They could be across clouds in a multi-cloud environment, or it could be even, let's say, a server trying to, get some patch updates from the internet. Look at what happened with SolarWinds, right? Signed update from a very, very trusted provider, but that update itself has been kind of, backdoored with some kind of a, malware, and that created mayhem. So I would say that along with the, points which Rishi and you made, maybe we can also talk a little bit about having visibility. You know, because gone are the days when IT had to request for servers, or you have to wait for some kind of hardware and bare metal to come to your data center. Today infra is code, right? So today developers don't even need to go to anybody, so they can just simply put out their applications. There's a lot of new cloud tooling. It's not only like only infrastructure, like let's say VMs or serverless containers. It's also a new kind of tooling for message exchanging, for APIs, for doing things like AI or ML analytics and so on and so forth. So I see a huge sprawl coming up, right? And which is required to power up digital in a very fast fashion. But being developers, being users, we will always make silly mistakes. However good maths we knew, but in schools we'll always kind of do some simple mistakes on two problems and not get the full marks, right? So same thing happens. Developers are focused upon the business, kind of goals of the application. They think of security post facto. But now, as Rishi mentioned, like whether it's DevSecOps or SecDevSecOps, we are trying to push security right at the beginning, and not only at a fixed milestone, but on a continuous basis. So when you develop code, when you deploy code, when you move code between, let's say, dev to a test to a pre-prod to a prod environment, you're always looking and continuously scanning to see that there are no vulnerabilities which can be easily exposed by the adversaries, right? So that way it is coming on. And what I see as a huge challenge is obviously things like a shortage of the right skills, because every cloud environment has got their own language, their own protocols and all. And if you're running some stuff on AWS, some stuff on Azure, something on GCP, how do you expect your team to be always aware about the nuances across all these platforms and plug all the gaps at the same time? So those are the challenges you have to look out for.
So very, very interesting points and very, you know, diverse points, but very nicely, touching each other. We're talking about, uh, the code development using the latest technologies. We're talking about containers, and then we're talking of people having that capability to build that. Uh, you know, drawing from that, when we are looking at containers, and we're looking at rapid deployment of applications, destruction of containers, and possible, some places, loss of data, and looking at the direction where we need to investigate some things and audit some things. How do the audits, etc., need to grow in this direction? Because technology is becoming far too complex, even for the technologist and for the IT people. The audit people who are trying to automate the audit process with this kind of rapid change in technology. Rishi, what do you feel the auditors and the workforce part of it, how do they need to grow and advance in this field?
So first of all, Amit, we need to move away from the checklist model, and especially the legacy checklist which the auditors have been using. They were there for a purpose. They were there for compliance. They were there for ticking the box. They were there for due diligences. The environment has changed so dynamically that, as you talked about container, right? If you're not keeping an eye on runtime environment, the container can come, destroy, and self-destruct. You won't even come to know that what happened to my environment, right? So the technologies are changing so fast, uh, and I think I did a session for our CISO community on just on this recently, where if we are not studying the latest technology, or we are not deploying, or we are not piloting, because developers and the business transformation is happening at a scale, right? Because they have to opt for these technologies if they want to grow. But if security is not coming up to that standard, then we'll continue to do tick in the box, secure, 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 but eventually you are not secure. So do compliance for security, do compliance not for just tick in the box. Get into latest technologies. What is your runtime environment looking at? Are your containers getting scanned for vulnerabilities? Are your identities in place? Are your cloud identities in place? Are you doing a posture management for your cloud? In containers, are you looking at northwest east west traffic? Because gone are the days they were just VMs, right? We are just containers. You won't even come to know what the flow is between the two containers. So I think upgrade, upgrade, upgrade.
So upgrade on technology as well, and upgrade on skill as well.
Absolutely.
So I think the skill power is more important for all of us to grow. And I think that bar of only the youngsters should learn and the senior folks shouldn't, I don't think it exists anymore. All of us need to stay relevant, or we'll be out of our jobs very, very quickly.
You can be a life coach then, but you cannot be a CTO or a CCO.
But life coach talks about relevance of issues at hand. If a person does not understand technology, he will now not understand issues at hand as well, and it's going to become very, very difficult. Uh, on the skill shortage is also an amazing piece, because with so many amounts of technology, a lot of youngsters come to me and say, what do we need to do? And piecemeal knowledge on something is becoming very, very tricky. My advice to a lot of them have been that pick up a topic, give it 2 months, don't focus on anything else at that point in time, do a certification because it will help you prove yourself as well, and after 2 months maybe pick up something else which is relevant along with that. So at least you stay focused. Otherwise you pick up something, then you lose focus and start, you go to cloud, then you get into services, then you go into containers, you don't even know where you've started. So that your views on training and skills and workforce in India, and where do you see it is going?
Nothing different from what both of you gentlemen mentioned. So it's continuous kind of updation, etc. And I would say remaining curious, right? You cannot have that know-it-all attitude, or I have become a people manager, so let me only manage my team. That won't play anymore. So we got to always be on our toes and learn new things, and also experiment. What I am also liking in the youngsters of today is a do-it-yourself culture. The time when we came out, at least my own experience, we were more theoretical in our understanding from college, etc. But I see the youngsters today, they're tinkering with stuff, and that is, I think, the best way where you can marry theory and practice together and really become a successful practitioner. In Zscaler, being a product company, there's always kind of relevant training and contextual training, right? And we are always looking for what is the next set of things that we should go after. What also helps is we are a platform. We are not a set of point products, right? So it's a platform of switch on, switch off security services based upon your needs and what path you want to take for transformation. The other factor is multi-tenancy. So it's the same security code base which is servicing over 6,000 plus enterprise customers today. So we get a lot of inputs. It's almost like crowdsourcing of ideas. So customers who have taken something from us and adopting it, they are coming and telling, boss, you have missed out on these 2 or 3 things which are very apparent to make the things even better. So that way we are fortunate to get those inputs from so many different customers across industries, across geographies, and that helps us to prioritize and bring things forward. Uh, in terms of the newer security for cloud, and also we are also closely aligned with frameworks like NIST, also research firms like Gartner, Forrester, IDG, etc. What they are kind of talking about. For example, this term called cloud native app protection, this CNAP, right? Talks about a variety of application areas, but our view is don't look at it in silo. So if you're thinking about cloud misconfigurations of your workloads or containers, on the other hand, you're looking at entitlements like Rishi mentioned, you're looking at vulnerabilities. Why don't you combine them on a real-time basis, correlate, and boil up those 5 or 10, kind of vulnerabilities, which should take, or we should take precedence and need immediate attention, for let's say remediation. So instead of having a point approach, having a platform approach, and in terms of skilling, and there's no rocket science. We also have an important role as leaders to keep our teams always engaged and always vibrant and sharing ideas. And the world today, with all this collaboration and all, of course, we feel a little isolated working from home, but the platforms are collaborative. Gone are the days when I have written a document and sent it out on a mail to 3 people to review and give their comments. It's all happening online on the same document. So all of that is also helping the cause, I must say.
So just combining your two parts, one of technology and one of uh, the youngsters picking up a lot of things to do. In fact, I see a very flip side in my company. We are
Mhm.
the youngest companies in India. We are the average age is about 26. Um, when I joined, so people said I've increased the average age by 2 years of the company. So, but the youngsters are very, very quick to move away from something if they don't like, and they're not hesitant in waiting. They want to quickly change. They're happy to put in their resignation without finding another job. They want to do what they want to do, so that increases our stress value, because some things need to be done. But on a parallel note with this, this was on a little lighter note, but on a parallel note, when we talk about users bringing in ideas for improvement of a company, that shows that the health of the company is good. We, in security terms, we call it, if people bring out the risk, that means the job of a CISO is much easier now, because the team is contributing and trying to improve the posture for you. And when you talk of vulnerabilities and their management, I think the user awareness, the user acceptance of the risk, and their collaboration into growth of the company, and the remediation of the technical aspects. Uh, this shows that the cyber security awareness and the culture that you want to promote in the company is working well. How much of it is actual success and on ground? It is tough in a lot of companies. As Rishi mentioned initially, that security used to be a thing to be done in the last, and nobody likes you. How is that changing, and if at all changing, Rishi, at least in your view?
Changing a lot, actually, Amit. So, as we all know that we've got seat on the table now, because there's so much awareness within the business about cybersecurity. I mean, who's and who of the, or I mean, in this world have been breached, right? And the repercussions have been so, I mean, so severe that nobody wants to be in that situation, because that can be your extinction event itself, because the business might extinct with just one event. I mean, we've seen some big, large organizations getting breached in last 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
It can happen to everyone, right? And so it is important, and there is seriousness around it. Nobody wants to take a call. Somebody needs to prove, right? An application, vulnerable application goes live. CISO is not approving it. If somebody wants to take that risk, he can, right? And considering the repercussions we have, nobody wants to take that risk. And that seriousness is also shifting left, I would say. So people know that if I will build a vulnerable application and God forbid it goes live and if something happens to it, I'll be held accountable. So I think situation is much better than where we were 3, 4, 5, 6 years back. But again, we are humans, we make mistakes. So there has to be tools, technologies catching hold of it, and detection have to be really strong. Human is the most strongest part of the chain and most vulnerable. So we have to just keep that in mind.
No, just to add to that, Rishi, one of the report that I was reading, it said almost 80% of breaches are because of humans, and not necessarily by intentional mistakes. Intentional mistakes could be about 5 to 10%, but the balance is the misconfigurations and lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, lack of testing, and lack of validation by that ego which says that I've done the best thing. uh, so that is an important part that people need to realize and build. So that you've been talking to a lot of customers, how do you see this piece of culture, remediation, and what Rishi mentioned regarding the relevance of the information security folks and the privacy folks in the business?
I'll mention a couple of things. So one is this, awareness and the way people are running. For example, I remember back in the day, we used to have this computer-based tutorial or some kind of a security certification maybe once a year, at most twice a year, right? That is not happening now. I see a lot of visual signs when I walk through the kind of offices, etc., which is trying to make these things aware. The tools are becoming smarter. So, for example, earlier in our own experience in Zscaler, if we block a particular URL for a particular user, there will be just kind of 404 not found kind of error. But now we are trying to buttress that with proper end user notification, that why we are stopping it, what is the cause, so that we also take that kind of a thing to educate the user that what, you may not be doing it in the right thing. And the last point I would mention is, earlier things were like binary, either you allow or you block. But today we also experiment a lot with other kind of enforcement policy. For example, shall I conditionally allow you access? For example, if it is a browser session, and I think that something is risky, either the user or the endpoint may be a little bit risky, or the application you're going to could be a crown jewel application. Now, if the risk goes beyond a certain level, I will run that browser session from Zscaler cloud, and all you see as a user are, let's say, pixels getting streamed. So you cannot upload anything malicious, you cannot download the intellectual property of the company. So I allow, but I allow you conditionally. Or we're also dealing with the things of how do I deceive the attackers? Because zero trust, as a principle, says that the environment is hostile. You've already been breached. Now what? So instead of just showing them the actual application servers, domain controllers, file servers, and whatnot, we can lay out honeypot across different layers of the organization, at the endpoint layer, network layer, application layer, right? So that it's like a game of chase. Let's engage the attacker. Let us not show him a flat network where he can just go from any place to any place. But so different kind of things are coming in, which is also making it easy for the users to know when they're trying to, or they're doing a mistake unintentionally. Same goes on the area of data privacy, data protection, right? Whether things are leaving your things. Earlier things were mostly around structured data, but now we are getting into unstructured data as well. Even things like HR department has the maybe Aadhaar copies or PAN card and DLs of employee. What happens if they leak out in bulk? So can we stop them? So those kind of enforcement controls are coming at different layers of the kill chain to improve security, improve users awareness, and help the cause of overall security up leveling in the organizations.
Rishi, just the last point that I wanted to talk about is innovation that we do internally. We do a lot of smaller pieces of innovation, automation. We try to build some things along the tools. We realize that the tools do not give us everything that we need, and we build some things on top. How much is the innovation or automation that you're trying to do as a custom thing in your organization, and what are the challenges that you face in that?
So basically, we strongly feel that innovation ideas come from the lowest part of the org, right? Because they are the one who are executing, and they know that if they do this, their life will be much easier, right? But the challenge with that is that the moment you decentralize innovation, there'll be you will be in a situation that everybody is developing something and you do not have visibility, right? So while the organization should promote the culture of innovation development, there has to be a central governance around that, right? Whether you submit, whether you have a centralized platform where people submit ideas, innovations, or what they have done, so that it is just not one side view, right? Because we all feel that we can develop great products, but have you thought about security? Have you thought about privacy? Have you thought about what you're trying to do will have a negative impact on something else? So while every organization should promote it, because innovation at scale will come when everybody is thinking about it, but it has to have a centralized governance structure.
So that to you with the same kind of question, how much is it that you are willing to give access to organizations, like Quantify, to Concentrix, for us to automate, operations out of your tools? And how much of access do you provide to us? And what is your roadmap in that direction to help companies build something on top of your product to make it little better? Maybe in addition to other tools that we have, just to trying to automate some activities, remediation, or identifying attacks, etc.
A great set of questions, Amit. So I'll address the last part. How much of kind of access do I give to the subscribing organizations to build further? So obviously you can lay out your cybersecurity policies pretty flexibly using almost like business terms. Gone are the days when you have to lay out the policy like complex ACL rules in firewalls, IP address, port protocol, right? Nobody knows what that IP address means, which application. So here you are working with FQDNs, URLs. On the other side from the users, you're working with business language, for example, user, department, group, location, which are easy, right? So that way you can flexibly run policy. Secondly, based upon actual usage, right? How your users are using your applications, we are mining that data, only the metadata. Of course, we don't look at the payload. And we are trying to kind of recommend to you intelligent policies. Okay. So that's the AI and ML which is coming up. That what? I believe this is a finance application and I believe these are finance users. But what? There are so many other users who have access, but they hardly use. So why don't you block it off, right? So those are intelligent policies. And the last part is we also have built up a pretty API-friendly platform So if you're running your own threat intels, if you're developing your own signatures, you want to, kind of marry that along with this particular platform, we are giving you tools for you to kind of ingest those data and, kind of maybe, improve on your security. So multiple such areas, obviously, and very fast developing areas. And as I told you, most of the development is anyway happening with customers' feedback, right? So that way, it's also kind of, market ready. That's where the demand is coming from.
Thanks a lot, Rishi, Sudev. I think that's all we have time for today. A very interesting conversation, and thank you for your views. And thanks a lot. Have a nice day.
Wonderful talking to both of you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Udit. Thanks, Amit.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Rishi, Sudeep, and Amit, for that enriching and encouraging conversation. Thank you for taking us through how GCCs can build on capabilities in cybersecurity through intelligent automation and standardization. This to combat the risks and attacks and become a powerhouse of development for cyber skilled workforce, which supports both their own vision and the country's talent pool. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to an end of today's webinar. I would request you to please take a few moments of your time and fill in the feedback form. Your feedback is invaluable to us as this helps us enhance the content, structure, and delivery of our conferences. So please feel free to mention any suggestions or recommendations that you have for us. We hope that you've enjoyed your time today at the webinar on Cyber Resilience Powered Global Capability Centers, Unlocking the Next. I thank you all for spending your time with us on behalf of Zscaler and Strategic, and hope to see you at the next episode in this very webinar series. Our team will be in touch with you to share the details shortly. Thank you very much, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, and do enjoy the rest of your day.